everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Ask, Don't Tell. Today we've got a really special guest. And Katie, if I say your name wrong, and we should have probably discussed this like 2 minutes ago in the pregame, but is it Mares or can you please? I'm like, I don't want to butcher it.
No, it's all good. I get Mares, I get Mars, but it's Mares.
All right. I'm sure you loved Mars when you were growing up a kid.
Yes. Yes, I
Okay.
did.
Well, my name's Oscar, so you can imagine what I went through
I
as a
can.
kid. Which I probably still go through, but my favorite was always like the Big O or whatever. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Today we're talking about really the power of choice, the power of experience, the power of her reshaping success in business, decisive action. So this really, I'm excited for this guest because it goes into a lot of different things, whether it be, whether it be business, whether it be the decisions that you make within business, whether it be individuals within business, whether it be the choices, good or bad, that we make within ourselves in organizations and business. But you also focus a lot on women. So this is going to be super exciting. All right. So why don't you start us off, Katie, with like, why do people come to you? Like, what is it that you help people achieve?
Oh my gosh, that is a loaded question. Essentially, what I help people achieve, though, when we boil down to it, is I help them achieve a mindset where they stop negotiating with, whether it's the result they're looking for, whether the experience, their revenue, their own personal life, their successes. So essentially, I help people create that mindset, people and businesses, that they then stop negotiating with their future selves.
All right. See my loaded question. See where it brought us. And by the way, I can already tell you're a pro at answering that. Okay, so let's take that. Let's deconstruct that a little bit because
Mhm.
that can go from the individual that's making the choices, whether
Mhm.
it be at the top or whether it's not, or whether it's just a team member that's making choices that are influencing another team. But
Mhm.
it's also much greater than that because the choices of someone's personal life bleed into
Mhm.
the choices they make in business or at
Mhm.
home. So when you said that, are you are we talking more about on a business perspective or are we talking more on a personal perspective? Like what is the one thing that kind of where you got started and where you're heading with this now?
Yeah, so I mean, I truly believe that the decisions we make personally, the way we live our life and conduct ourselves personally impact our business. So when I work with organizations in designing guest experiences, in shifting and transforming mindsets of the women that work there, of achieving their goals, I tell these business owners and CEOs to plug their ears every time I say this. I don't really care what we're doing at work. I care that they change personally, because if they change personally, then they're automatically going to show up differently at work. And that is going to be the result. The results will come from the change. So even when I'm designing the experiences, we put the system, the processes in place, we create the brand experience playbooks and the non-negotiable standards. We can do all of that. But if they don't want to do it, they're not going, it's useless. So we work with the individuals that are actually going to take that system, take that process, and make sure they show up to, I always say, your success is on the other side if I don't feel like it. So they show up in that moment, and they, even though they don't feel like treating a guest in a certain way or making eye contact or following a non-negotiable standard because they're tired and their kid came home when they're supposed to be working and they didn't feel like getting in front of a mic, right? Like there's so much going on. I work with that team to shift their mindset, to be grateful for the customers that are there, the business owners that are there, for the life that they have, so that they actually show up and do it.
Awesome.
So it's a both.
Okay.
And
So we talked a little bit. We talked a little, and you're saying like I'm hearing words that ultimately like because ask don't tell is about helping people get better at sales, but sales is getting people to say yes, and getting people to say
Mhm.
yes is about make either connecting well with them so that they want to do business with you. So
Mhm.
we talked a little bit about how your goal is to improve, shape that customer experience
Mhm.
for them in a way to say yes to whatever you're offering, which is
Mhm.
kind of sales, right? So,
1000%.
yeah, 1000%. So, tell me a little bit about how, when you can shape that individual even from the outside, how
Mhm.
that will influence that. You call it customer experience, I call it sales, but how does that impact that customer experience ultimately? What do you like to see? What do you like to teach? What do you like to coach when it comes to that?
Yeah. So the number one priority of any business is to get and keep customers, right? You don't have a business without customers. And if you don't keep them, then you don't have future sales, a future price pipeline, sorry, referrals, so on and so forth, loyalty, lifetime value of the customer. Shifting that mindset, to get over that hump, is sales is kind of this nasty little word, right? Like people are like, I have to sell somebody. What? I have to go
Right.
sell. I just, onboarded a new chief strategist into my organization, and part of her role is to sell and is to go out into dealerships and create an experience that these people then go, oh my gosh, I can't not work with this company. I have to work with this company to get them excited about coming and joining us down this road of designing an experience. She's like, it just doesn't feel right. I don't selling. I don't want to sell. Well, the reality is you don't have a business without customers, and you don't have sales without them either. So you've got to get over that hump. And so what I teach people is that, well, number one, that if you like the life that you have, the roof over your head, the food on your table, the sports that maybe your kids play, the clothes on your back, then you have to be grateful and you have to want to serve your customer. Because without your customer, without sales, you don't have any of that.
Right. Right.
You
I
have
love what you're
none of
s-
that.
I love what you're saying there, because in my upcoming book I talk a lot about, I said, some of the reasons why people don't so I'm giving you a sneak peek here, but so one of the reasons why salespeople or businesses, and when I say salespeople, like you and I are saying the same thing. Like people always talk
Yeah.
about salesmen. No, I'm talking to you, Mr. Engineer. I'm talking to you, Mr. Techie. I'm talking to you, Mr. Administrator. I'm talking to you, whoever's like, you're in some place in the funnel in a very long sales cycle. Yes, I'm talking to you. Like you're all in sales.
Yep.
But one of the things that I talk about is exactly what you just said, gratitude. Like
Mhm.
I've seen so many people that could be successful simply because they don't have gratitude. So we're kind of saying the same thing is, and I love, because like a lot of times when I interview, and I call them rock stars, or the top people in the industry of sales are getting to yes, you're one of those, right? But
Uh-huh.
we could be preaching the same thing using different words.
Oh
So
yeah.
when you're working with them to get that gratitude from the outside, bringing in, connect with the client in the way that they want to do business. And you call it, I love the word that you used. You said a client engineering, or you said experience engineer. Tell me a little bit more about how you came up with that term. And I might have butchered it, but how did you come up with that term, and exactly what does that mean? Like, how is that different than just saying sales, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, from a customer experience journey, like when you design that brand experience playbook, when you design those non negotiable standards, it's really taking the care and the time to look at, you call it the sales cycle, call it the customer journey, the different moments through time that you're
Right.
interacting with your customer. It has, the moments of truth, whatever word you want to put to it. It's all about, how do you make your customer feel special? How do you connect with that customer at each moment of truth, at each moment of time that they're doing business with you, at each stop on the sales journey? How do you create that, oh my gosh, I feel seen, heard, and valued? And this is the one I hit home. Your customers need to say, I like you, I know you, I trust you. If they're saying, I like you, I know you, I trust you, they aren't going to buy anywhere else. So how do you get to that end? So engineering that experience is starting with the end in mind. This is the feeling I want to invoke or evoke from your customer. I want them to feel like they like me, like they know me, like they trust me. I want them to have an emotional connection with me because I know they buy based off of their limbic brain, not off of their prefrontal cortex. I know that they buy because of how they feel. Then you work your way backwards. So then you design or engineer that experience to ensure that you evoke that emotion. And when you're doing that and you're doing it consistently, then you're able to create a relationship that is feeling based. And that's the difference between an experience and service. You'll never hear me say customer service. Service is a transaction. Service is here, you do this, I'm going to give you money. It's a trade. An experience is actually something that happens to you that affects the way you feel. A person
Okay.
buys based off of how they feel. I like you, I know you, I trust you. So you need to engineer, design that experience for each moment of truth, for each touch point on the customer journey, backwards to make sure you create that feeling.
Right. So, I mean, you're hitting on, sales 101, which is people like to do business with those they like,
Yes.
trust, and in theory are kind of like them, right? I mean, if
Yep.
I feel like I can connect with you, that I mean, we might be completely different from completely different worlds, but in this moment, when I'm making some sort of purchase decision in this, call them conversion points, call them whatever you want,
Whatever, yes.
yeah, at that moment, if I feel like we are connecting, we are buddies, I feel confident with you. If I like you, I'm more likely to say
Mm-hmm.
yes. So really, the solution you provide is really unique, because there's a lot of people. For example, I focus a lot of times. I say, my job is to shorten the sales cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that are better at helping, the communication side of the sales process. What I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
hearing from you is that the solution that you provide for your clients is taking like and I may be wrong, it's taking a very, very wide view of their whole entire sales cycle, and kind of like redesigning, if that's the word, or designing out each part of that process
Mm-hmm.
so that the client feels like, oh wow, like I want to do business with them because, and here's the magic word, I didn't feel sold. Is that the is that the ultimate solution goal? I didn't feel sold. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that they feel like they are the only customer that you have and they're special. They feel seen, value, and heard 100%, but from not just one touch point, from every person they interact with. And out of that design comes this non negotiable standard, this brand experience playbook. So not only are you, you say you're shortening the sales cycle, well, I'm pulling that apart and I'm saying, how do we create these non-negotiable standards that no matter so if you have turnover, who you bring in, they're trained the same way. And the beautiful and most unique part of all of this is that every organization that I work with, they design their standards. So it's not me coming in and saying, hey, this is what you need, this is how it is. We get together and design it together. They know their customer, they know what they're selling more than I do. I do my research, but everything I do is unique, and it's unique to that business and to that customer base. And then because we do that, they own it and they're excited
Right.
about it and they
So what?
choose to actually activate it.
Okay, so let's talk about. I mean, I'm, let's talk about some challenges that occur when you're doing this, because I mean, you can do this. You can help an entire sales funnel, whether it be a small, mom and pop organization or a very large company. So
Mm-hmm.
you're going in,
Mm-hmm.
and the solution you're providing is, all right, let's take a look. You're not giving them a cookie cutter, is what I'm hearing from
Mm-hmm.
you.
Yeah.
It isn't
Uh-huh.
like, hey, you have to do it like this is my formula, love it or not. No, like you're designing it out.
Mm-hmm.
But what I keep hearing there, though, is that it's not really like a structure that it's, if you do A, you do B. It's powered by the individuals in that company, is what I keep hearing from you. So if it's powered by the individuals of the company, and you have to work with those individuals for this actually to work, like the design can be created, but if the individuals don't buy into it, if they don't want it, then it doesn't work. So what are in a world where everyone's different and not everyone's going to say, yes, Katie, I absolutely love this. How do you get the team to make that shift? How do you get those individuals to buy in? How do you, get the one person that says, whatever, I've been doing business like this for 30 years. I don't want to change. How do you solve that challenge?
So so I do have a formula that I
Mm-hmm.
guide them through. However, it would be anything like your sales process, how to shorten the sales funnel, right?
Right,
Your
right.
formula that you go in. Whether it's individualized or not, you're still going to have naysayers. So if we go back to the sales process, even what you do, it is there is always going to be a person or 10 that been like, what is this? What is Oscar talking about? What is Katie talking about? And they're going to not have the buy-in. I actually find that the way I do it, because they're part of the solution, that I'm not just giving them my formula, the buy-in happens almost immediately. Because, well, when you work with me, it's you don't work with me for less than a year, first of all, because I know it takes at least 6 months for people to get on board and start showing change. So we're at least 1 year together. And knowing this, I know where my milestones are. I know when about the time people start to that if they don't like it, they start to show the signs. And then that hiring manager, that leader has a tough decision to make, because when we decide to change a culture, you're going to hire by that culture and fire by that culture. You have to be able to coach by that culture and train by that culture, and it becomes non-negotiable. So there are moments where if there are people that do not get on the bus or do not get, on the boat and don't start rowing in the same direction, it shows within the first 6 months, and those people, they stand out like a sore thumb. We coach it, we train it, and if they still don't get on board, they get off the bus.
Okay. What I mean, right there, you mentioned something that can't be done quite clearly. Like I can go in and do a 2-day workshop and teach you some skills and some,
Mhm.
some communication skills, how to ask better questions, how to get people to kind of, how to get past excuses and stalls and
Mhm.
objections, how to kind of get better at getting yes when someone's, you know, trying to like stall the process. Like you can do that in like a 1 or 2 day workshop, maybe even a keynote. But
Mhm.
what you're talking about is actually it's actually very deep. You're talking about changing culture.
Yeah.
And changing
Oh, 100%.
culture, yeah, can't be done, or I mean, I'm not saying can't be done, but for the most part,
Mhm.
really impacting the culture of a company is going to take literally a year, right?
Yeah. Oh, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So how do you and I want to know a little bit about your because you're clearly a salesperson, right? So and you're teaching other people how to get better at their sales process. But you, Katie, I mean, if we're talking about ask, don't tell, all right. One thing is what Katie offers, and
Mhm.
ask, don't tell. I mean, if people are listening, it's like okay, but I want to hear from Katie. How does she get past no? See, because when you go into an organization, it isn't like, hey, let me just offer you a 2-day workshop for you to see what I do. It's like, hey, let's work for a year. And
Mhm.
that's a big ask. That's a big commitment. So, what are
Yeah, it's
some
a
of the
multi
biggest
six-figure
objections
commitment.
that you get to that? What are some of the
Yeah.
biggest objections you get?
Oh gosh. I don't have time. That's a lot of money. I'll see about budget next year. I don't know if we're ready. But then they always come back. So here's the thing is that I'm like, cool, you need this. Your customers, 79% of your customers are leaving you for the competition based off of experience alone. And right now, the only competition you have is your experience competition. And that's where your customers are spending their money that they've worked hard for outside of your business. So when they're interacting with Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, Nordstrom's, you name any good experience that people are Amazon, that they're interacting with every single day, that is your experience. And if you don't level up, we have a thing called a smartphone, and they're going to pop it into Google and they're going to find 5 other places that do what you do.
Right.
Cool. You don't have time to save your customers and create lifetime loyalty? Amazing. I'm not your girl. I'm not going to try to take your money. So then I'm gone. They always come back.
Okay. So
Oh.
So I mean, no, yeah, I mean, you have your way of getting the yes. I mean,
Mhm.
ultimately, I mean, I get the same thing. Like, whatever. Every excuse that you just
Yes.
said is an excuse that you always get. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's like sometimes, and I don't know if you get this, they're like, okay, well, I'm hiring someone who's going to teach us to get better at sales, at shortening their sales cycle. I want to see how they shorten their sales cycle, like
Yeah.
me, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like they're testing you, and they like it when you use your own teaching
Mhm.
to get past their own excuses and objections, right? So
Oh, yeah.
you said it wonderfully. You basically do what I would say a takeaway. It's like, you don't want to do this, you don't have time, great. I'm kind of taking away the opportunity, and you have to live with the no action. And the no
Mhm.
action is to stay exactly where you are, which is basically kind of what you're saying. And
Mhm.
eventually they're like, well, I don't want to stay where I am. So you've taken away, now they come back, right? And it's
Mhm.
it's
Yep.
you know it's a skill, it's an ability of communication, how you do it. And I'm going to go back to some of your training and what you do, but I'm just curious, what is your kind of favorite way to help someone go from, because a lot of our listeners went like how do the pros really handle some of these sales, that conversion point where you're sitting in front of the CEO and they tell you, Katie, we don't have time, we don't have budget. What's like one skill, one way that you love or you use to help them get past that stall that's different than what you just told me? I'm looking for another one because I loved your last one.
Honestly, I become their friend.
Okay,
They become emotionally invested in me and in our relationship. And when you're emotionally invested, they couldn't dream of doing business with somebody else. That is what I teach. I teach them how to
absolutely.
get their customers to become emotionally invested. So, when a birthday comes up or something happens in their life and they've told me about it, you better believe I have a system in place to put it in my calendar to make sure that I'm reaching out at that perfect moment where they might have forgotten about me, but then I remember something about them. And it's that emotional investment. If you can play, and this sounds so bad because I actually
Say
genuinely
it.
care.
Whatever you're hiding from saying, say it, because that's exactly what our audience wants to hear. I always say
It
those things that you don't want to say are the ones that make the most impact. So say what you're
well,
going to
it,
say.
it's manipulation of the heart. It's pulling the heartstrings. It's knowing exactly what that person needs to feel and using it to your advantage in
Right.
a genuine way, but
I loved it. I loved it because you said the same. I always say, why do we say manipulation is a bad word? Manipulation is just using the world around you
yeah.
and the opportunity. You're not manipulating. You're helping them make a decision that's going to make an impact for them by simply helping them get past the little barrier that's really just an excuse to get them
Yeah.
to say yes to something that's going to be impactful. And
Yeah,
so
if you
there's
don't
nothing
yeah.
wrong with that.
No, I don't think there's anything wrong with manipulation in terms of a word. I do think that when you're pulling on somebody's heartstring, it can feel when you use that word with emotions and somebody's emotional, state. It can, at least for me, feel a little icky. But you're right. It is the exact. That's what you're doing. Is you're helping them get to the place where they need to be. So you're going to manipulate the situation. You're going to provide genuine care, and you're going to show up in a way that they're like, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe." Or even or not believe, but I couldn't imagine, sorry is the word I was looking for, imagine doing business with anyone else
Right.
because they care.
But see, this is why you're successful, because ultimately, you know, I say a lot of the times, like whenever how I act in the world in my own company is the way, a lot of times, the way that I want to teach you. I'm not making this stuff up. Like
Mm-hmm.
I live it, like I know it works. And
Yep.
so sometimes when I ask people that question, I'm really answering the question, why Katie? Like there's different trainings, there's different systems out there, there's different people, there's different gurus, and it's really in, I don't know if you ever heard me say about the four whys, but one of those is why Katie. And you answered it beautifully. Like at the end of the day, because this is something that you would do. Like think about it.
Mm-hmm.
You're basically saying you're always there.
Mm-hmm.
So when they are ready to make a decision or they feel they need help, you're the one they want to do business with, which goes
Mhm.
back to everything that you had already said. Goes back to, okay, do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they want to do business with you? Have you engineered throughout the process,
Mhm.
that the birthday card or the call or the quick call,
Yep.
on a random Friday just to say hi. And a lot of times it's a little bit about, I resonate with it because I do that as well. The companies and the CEOs that I work with are some of my best friends, right?
Mhm.
They want to do business with you. So I know that's powerful, Katie, because it just shows that what you then go in and do is actually what you actually know
It's
works.
who I am. Yeah, it's
Right.
I there's nothing, whether it's with an organization as a total, whether it's with just the women in the organization or a one-on-one client. Anything I ask them to do, any practice, any activity, any tool that I give them is a tool that I have used in my life and I have gotten success from it. I would
Right.
never ask somebody to do something that wasn't tried, tested, and true.
Absolutely, absolutely. You mentioned there, and I want to make sure that we hit on that. So and here's actually one of the questions that I have, because you're trying to mold an entire organization and culture, but your focus is also, and I don't know if it's primarily women-owned businesses or if it's primarily to women, but then how do you, unless every person in that company is a woman, right? How do you shape that culture if your focus is also women so can you just educate us a little bit,
Yeah,
please?
for
This
sure.
is really
So it's
interesting.
yeah, it's funny you say that. So I actually work primarily in the automotive space, and that is
Okay.
the most male-dominated industry on planet Earth. 93 plus percent of the executives in automotive are still men. So it is a experience designed by men for men, delivered by men. There are very few women either in a dealership, at an OEM executive level, or even across the vendors. Like, it's very few women. That's what actually got me into, I had a series of really awful car buying experiences as a woman. So that's how I wrote my first best-selling book, Custom Her Experience, where I studied the physiological differences between men and women and why women buy versus why men buy. So knowing my audience is all men, I have to tailor my keynotes. I tailor the way I sell, communicate, or provide an experience to men so that they hear me and they understand the value of the female consumer, which, by the way, she's the chief purchasing officer.
Right.
She, by 2028, is going to control 75% of the world's discretionary income, not influence, control. So if you haven't looked at the woman as being a niche customer base, you're missing out. But I know I've got to teach this to a group of men who have just been the way they are for as long. I mean, and you talk about dealerships that are passed generation to generation to generation. It's grandpa to son, son to child, so grandson, and it's just passed all the way down. How I do that is because I know men are logical. I know men communicate with one side of their brain. I know men want path of least resistance, point A to point B. I know men want to know the results and they don't really care about the warm and fuzzies. So I know my audience. And so
Right.
for that, it's very easy because when I speak to them, when I keynote, it's all about science. It's not, oh, women are amazing, which we are, but it's not, oh, we're incredible and you have to pay attention to her and all these things. It's no, listen, women communicate with both sides of their brain, logic and creativity. You gentlemen, you only communicate with one. Or it's a woman's limbic brain is almost double the size of a man's. So if you have a wife, a girlfriend, a daughter, a sister, a mother, or any woman in your life that remembers a fight in grave detail from like 5 years ago, it's not her fault, it's your problem. So like we talk about that and they laugh and they're like, oh, it makes sense to me now because I said it in a way that they were ready to receive it.
Right. Right. Well, it doesn't take very long to listen to you know that you know what you're talking about. so,
Yeah.
so then they're like, okay, fine. No, I mean, seriously, then they're like, okay, what does she have to say? Right. I mean,
Yep.
for you, it's probably, I mean, you go in there, I'm sure they're like, yeah, whatever, it's going to be warm and fuzzy. And there's probably guys on their cell phone and like, we don't want anything
Mm-hmm.
to do with this and blah, blah. It probably somewhere, especially when you start talking like science and this, how that you can see that they probably get engaged. And at some point around 10 a.m., they're like, okay, I want to see what she has to say. And then, you've kind of won, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah. And then you go from there. So like, I mean, all that is I mean, it really is fascinating, everything that you're saying. What's what are some of the biggest, like once you're actually talking in the group, right? Like once you're
Mhm.
actually doing this training and you're saying like it's men. And I mean, if we have a little more time, or if you want to be very very succinct on how did you end up with the automotive, I would love to know that. But really my question is, okay, so you're in a male dominated world of guys that probably think they're pretty good salespeople already. Like
Mhm.
I'm looking at the demographic. They probably
100%.
think that they're, specific personality. They probably don't like to be told what to do. And they've probably been doing it for a long time, because a lot of people in car sales started and have been doing it for a long time. So what's like the biggest challenge or the objection that you've faced from these guys when you go in there? Is it like, okay, it makes sense, but I just don't want to change how I am? Or is it like, all right, this is going to take some work? Like, where do you get from the guys that when you go in and do this?
Yeah, so I get both of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an old dog. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. I've been in the industry forever. What does this, woman know about selling a car?
Right.
But one of the thing, and that's the biggest one. How does she know? She's never sold a car a day in her life.
Mm-hmm.
She's never been in my industry. She's never worked the service lane. She doesn't know any of that. Why am I going to listen to her? And I'm like, well, listen. Have you heard of Celebrity Cruises? Yes. Have you heard of Celebrity Cruises? You have, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I designed their guest experience single handedly. 30,000 team members around the world. I was also part of the team that brought Forbes 5-star rating to the cruise industry. So when I hit them with my accolades, they're like, oh, I'm like, and here's the thing. Your customers' expectations are being shaped not by the once every 5 years they come to see you, but by the everyday experiences of where they spend their discretionary income. Their expectation is shaped by the companies that I've designed experiences for. So if you want to
Right.
win, so it's very I do get those objections. It doesn't take long for them to come around.
Right. And this is kind of where, and so be thinking about what you want to take, or what you want our audience to do. Like in a second, I'm going to give you a chance to say, like, what do you want
Yeah.
them to do today? What's their next action step? Where do you want to connect with you? Something that you want to leave with them, maybe that's going to be impactful, powerful. But at the end, I,
Mhm.
I kind of like to grab what some of the things that my guests say and do like a quick, 2 minute teaching moment from how we can apply that
Mhm.
to just to whatever our audience, what I know our audience does. So if you're listening, this is really powerful stuff that Katie said, because let's put aside for a second that she's in the automotive industry. Let's put aside for a second. All right. What she said is applicable to all businesses and all companies. And I'm glad that you said that you're focusing on automotive business. And I'm glad that you said that you don't come from that world. And I'm glad that you said that you've helped, because this is what I want everybody to remember from what I got today, from what Katie said. We live in these boxes, in these bubbles. If you're a tech, you're in tech. If you're engineering, you're in engineering. If you're a salesperson, you're a salesperson. If you're in automotive, you're in automotive. If you're in space, you're in space. I love when I go actually into companies and they say, well, what does this guy know? And there's always somebody who raises their hand. Well, this is transactional sales and we build satellites here. And what it is that you can't close yourself to, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way it's done in our industry. Because I tell people, you could learn a heck of a lot, for example, to getting people to say yes from the timeshare industry. You could
Mhm.
learn a heck of a lot.
Oh yeah.
So, for example, I work with a lot of space and defense companies. I don't come from the space and defense world. But here's the thing is my outside experience in the
Mhm.
transactional world, in selling to countries and organizations and nonprofits, I can grab that experience and apply it to like something like space and defense. And they're like, oh my gosh, we have never thought of that. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're listening to this today, I think one of the things you need to realize is that you can't just be closed minded and say, this is our culture. This is the way we do it. It's all the way we've done. You need to really listen to what Katie's saying, open your mind and say, how can we make this better? And if you need to reach out to Katie, or it really is all those things that you can learn from the outside world that are going to make a difference in your inside world. And we only know what we know. And ultimately, Katie, in order to shorten that sales cycle, it isn't about closing a deal. It's about every part of the sales cycle, as you described. If you get better at it, you shorten it and you shorten it and you shorten it and you
Mm-hmm.
shorten it and you shorten it. But guess what? It's probably not going to come from the people that are already working in that. It's probably going to come
No.
from someone like you that comes from the outside in and says, this is the way you're going to do it. And I think that's the message today. You got to get some outside help to help your inside. And if you do that,
Mm-hmm.
good things happen. So, Katie, that's my soapbox. I always do that at the end, but I want to give you a couple minutes to leave us with something where how do we want to connect with you, or what's our next step?
Yeah, I think that so yes to everything you just said, 100%. I mean, you're going to live the same life every single day. You're going to have the same results every single day if you don't dare to do differently, if you don't dare to
Right.
change. And the reality is that if I know everyone listening right now has this like heavy weight on their chest, on their shoulders. They know something needs to change, whether it's with their sales cycle, whether it's within their business or within their life. They know that, oh, and everyone that's listening is thinking of that thing right now. That thing, whether it's, poor customer loyalty, poor conversion, lower revenue than normal, a bad relationship, being overweight, whatever it is, you are there because of the sum of the decisions and choices you've made. Period. You've decided not to do differently. You've started to become comfortable. Comfort is a lie. So it's time to get uncomfortable. It's time to dare to do differently. It's time to stop negotiating with your future self. And I say the result or the success you're looking for is on the other side of I don't feel like it. You are where you are because you don't feel like going outside and getting new information. You are where you are because you don't feel like going to the gym. You don't feel like having the tough conversation. You don't feel like making that one last phone call because you don't want the rejection. You are where you are because you haven't done the things regardless of your mood. And so, what I
Awesome.
always say is the chase the feeling. So back to that designing the experience, right? When you're engineering an experience, you want to engineer a feeling out of your customer. There is nobody that goes to the gym and regrets going to the gym. You always feel good after you go to the gym. But you don't feel like getting out of your house. You don't feel like putting on your gym clothes. You don't feel like driving to the car or sorry, to the gym. You don't feel like doing all those things. Chase the feeling after the fact. So you're chasing the feeling that you're designing for your guests. Do the same for your life and for your business. You're not going to get immediate results. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're not going to get any results if you don't do anything. So your success is on the other side of I don't feel like it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So how can we connect with you? What would you like? What can our listeners do to just find out a little bit more about you? Where do you want us to point you? Maybe books or anything, website? Where do you want us to, how do we find you?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I'm really active in terms of customer experience on LinkedIn. You can just Katie Mares and I'll come up, and I do a live weekly show on customer experience. If you want tidbits of information, you can, follow me there. You can check out my Instagram if you want to know me a little more personally. I don't hide anything. Everything is out there. I'm pretty much an open book. And I do have custom her experience if you want to learn how to sell to women. And my new book, More Women, More Money, is coming out. And you can check out nowisnonnegotiable.com because that's really where we stop negotiating with our success.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for being today on our show. Katie, thank you for being here on Ask Don't Tell, where we try our best every week to bring you just a different perspective on really how do the pros out there help others shorten the sales cycle, get to yes, overcome objections, be better leaders. I mean, we touched it all today. So I think it was a great show to have you on today. So thank you. For
Oh,
those of
thank
you that are
you.
listening, feel free to connect with me on oscarsubrats.com, closingintelligence.com, or listen to our next episode of Ask, Don't Tell. Katie, you've been awesome. Thank you. And the
Thank
best of
you.
luck to you.